Before we get into the actual standards, though, I want to give everyone that's on the line an update on what's going on in the Virginia General Assembly right now. It's been an exciting year for V3. We've seen exponential growth in our numbers. If you didn't notice, the governor just sent out yesterday afternoon a press release announcing that we have surpassed the 10,000 cumulative jobs committed for veterans by V3 companies. So first of all, thank you to all the companies who have made that happen. But the momentum of V3 has caught the attention of the Virginia legislature and especially the governor of Virginia. So it's been quite an exciting time watching the wheels of government turn and all the support that we're receiving with the V3 program and everything that's being done to help us succeed and help you succeed as V3 companies who have committed to hiring veterans. So just to quickly update what's going on, you can find out more about this legislative update on the V3 website at dvsv3.com. But first of all, the governor's proposed budget he submitted on December 17th increased the amount of funding for the V3 program by $474,000. This almost doubles the amount of funding that we receive currently. So it's almost a 100% increase in funding to help the V3 program not only train and educate companies and help them connect with veterans, but also to help recognize companies for their efforts and to do our outreach and public relations and reward companies in ways that we haven't been able to previously. So the governor submitted this in his budget. We'll see where that goes. The budget is always a contentious issue in the legislature. But given the amount of support we've received, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to make the best use of this money to help companies do the best they can to recruit, hire, and retain veterans. House Bill 1577 and companion bills in the Senate is a Veteran Employment Grant Fund. This is a pretty significant piece of legislation that provides an opportunity for companies with fewer than 300 employees. If they hire a veteran after July 1st, 2015 and retain that veteran until July 1st, 2016 at a wage that is above the prevailing wage for that geographic area, that company is eligible for a $1,000 performance grant. The other caveat to that is that the veteran must be a veteran who is honorably discharged within 1 year of his hire date. So it's really focused on companies hiring transitioning service members and recent veterans. And it's an opportunity for companies to get a $1,000 grant to maybe offset some of the training that you would have to perform in order to get that veteran up to speed to the job you've hired him into. But fairly significant piece of legislation, as you can tell by the number of bills that are shown there. It's got widespread support in the House and the Senate. So that's looking hopeful as well. House Bill 1805 and 2259, these are very, very similar bills that are probably going to be merged. Veteran Entrepreneurship Grant Fund, this provides recent veterans an opportunity to get a $5,000 or 10% of startup costs grant from the Commonwealth of Virginia to help them start their own business. This is really an initiative to increase the entrepreneurial activities of our veterans who have recently discharged from the military. And if they can get to the 90% mark, but they're just having trouble getting that last 10% of funding that they need, the Commonwealth has created a fund, or through these bills is proposing to create a fund that will assist them in that regard. And they would also be able to use this legislation if the Commonwealth of Virginia approves their business plan as sort of a provisional funding based on acquiring the rest of it. So they'd be able to use our statement of support, essentially statement of provisional funding, as collateral for seeking out other investors or venture capitalists. HB 1641, this bill, as it currently stands, as it's currently written, requires all state agencies in the Commonwealth of Virginia to become certified in the V3 program. There is, as I understand it, an amendment in the nature of a substitution going on right now that kind of narrows the population as far as state agencies are concerned to where it would really be focused on the big agencies that are out there. And if you're unfamiliar with the way agency is defined in the Commonwealth of Virginia, there are agencies in the Commonwealth that have no more than 2 full-time employees. So we're trying to make sure that this bill makes sense for the population we're trying to serve. HB 2133 is an administrative change that's pretty significant in that it clearly defines that the V3 program does in fact serve members of the Virginia National Guard and the members of the Armed Forces Reserve. Prior to this, this administrative amendment, the code as it stood did not clearly define that we served members of the National Guard and Reserves. Obviously we did, but we wanted to make sure that this was clarified in the Virginia Code, so there was no question that we're in support of the Virginia National Guard and Armed Forces Reserve. And this one was just recently brought to my attention, HB 1523. There's also an administrative amendment to that allows National Guardsmen and Reservists to be eligible for Workforce Investment Act related services without calculating their income from their service in the Guard and Reserve. So if they're receiving any kind of income from their service in the National Guard and Reserve, that would not disqualify them from further training services and education services from the Workforce Investment Act. That will allow more Guardsmen and Reservists to become trained and receive the sort of education and training that the Workforce Investment Boards provide in various regions throughout the Commonwealth. So that's just a quick update. There's more. You can read more at the DVSB3 website. If you go to the newsroom and find the legislative update, you may have also received from me a constant contact email blast having some of this updates as well. I will probably send another update next week just to keep everyone apprised. But needless to say, there's a lot of support that we have concerning the V3 program and overall increasing employment opportunities for veterans. So all of that being said, one of the reasons we're coming up with these recertification standards and changing the way we recertify companies is because all of this, the program has grown to a point now where we have so many incentives and so many opportunities for companies to get involved that we want to make sure that we have a good quality control over the integrity of the V3 certificate. So these recertification standards are a method for Department of Veteran Services and the V3 program to have some oversight and have to ensure the integrity of the certificate, ensure the integrity of the program, and to really help companies get more involved actively in the veteran community. So quickly, just to go over what our current certification process is, and this may have changed from the last time you remember it. If you haven't been on a call with V3 in the past year or so, this may look a little bit foreign to you, so I just want to go over this quickly. So our certification process for current V3 companies is they enroll in the V3 program by submitting their public commitment in the form of a pledge letter to the Governor of Virginia, and they also complete an application to go along with it. Prior to becoming certified, they have to complete all of the mandatory V3 curriculum. This includes our core curriculum, which educates employers on the value of hiring veterans, trains them in best practices for recruiting, hiring, and retaining veterans, and provides them with connectivity resources to connect with the veteran population. Along with that core curriculum is the supplemental curriculum that we have available through the Virginia Wounded Warrior Program, the Virginia Employment Commission, Employer Support for the Guard and Reserve, the State Approving Agency for OJT and Apprenticeship, and supplemental training on the Virginia National Guard. And finally, before certification, each company will complete the Organizational Veteran Hiring Plan, which outlines a company's strategy for actively recruiting, hiring, and retaining veterans. And all of that must be completed within 1 year of a company's enrollment in the V3 program. The certificate is valid for 2 years, and I want to make the point very clear that companies certified prior to July 1st, 2014 are grandfathered in with an effective certification date. So companies certified prior to July 4th, grandfathered companies will receive an effective certification date of July 1st, 2014. That means that you didn't necessarily have to do anything in order to get that effective certification. It's an administrative change. We wanted to make sure that we weren't penalizing companies when we redid the certification standards, and make them have to get recertified right away. All other company certification dates, if they were certified after July 1st, remain effective the date of their certification. So the grandfathered companies, they may begin working toward fulfilling continuing activity credit immediately, and we're going to get into this, what that actually means, and may begin working toward fulfilling continuing education credits starting July 1st, 2015, or 1 year prior to their certificate's expiration. So just to quickly go over what our idea here is, we're implementing a control mechanism to show the activity and training of V3 companies in the form of continuing education credits and in the form of continuing activity credits. Continuing education credits, each company will be required to accumulate 5 continuing education credits over the course of a year. This is to ensure that V3 companies are current with updated data and information that can assist them with keeping their veteran hiring plans up to date, let them know about the available resources, different best practices that may have changed since the last time they received the initial training, and overall to keep their veteran hiring plan relevant and up to date with the current employment situation concerning veterans. All of the continuing education credits may be completed in person or via webinar, and V3 has really ramped up its webinar efforts, as is evidenced by today's webinar. And again, this may be completed within 1 year of certificate expiration. So if you are certified on July 1st, 2014, certificate expires July 1st, 2016, you can begin acquiring the CE credits on July 1st, 2015. And really this is to ensure that a company doesn't become certified and then in the next month they get all 5 continuing education credits, and then the month after, leading up to the expiration date, everything in the veteran employment world changes, and their veteran hiring plan is completely out to date. So we want to make sure that there's that 1 year window in which they can receive that training. Continuing activity credits, there's a total of 10 that companies may acquire, and again, I'll get into methods and mechanisms to acquire all of these credits later on. And this is designed to encourage V3 companies to engage regularly with the program and the veteran population by contributing to its qualitative and quantitative measurements. What that means is just to help the V3 companies stay connected to the veteran population and stay connected to the V3 network, help us improve the program so we can continue to improve our delivery mechanisms for other companies within the network. Remain in communication with the program and other V3 companies, and really this helps us contribute, helps us by you contributing to the overall effectiveness and relevance and the currency of the program. And this may be, you can start this as soon as you get certified. Companies can start acquiring their continuing activity credits. And again, we'll go over exactly what this is. So the formula here that we're looking at is 5 credits of continuing education plus 10 credits of continuing activity equals V3 certified company receiving its second award or continued award or whatever that may be. If you already have 2 awards, then you would get your third. So some examples of what the continuing education credits are. This would include the V3 standard curriculum, and that is the core training that I talked about earlier, as well as the supplemental training through Wounded Warrior Program, Employment Commission, OJT, and apprenticeship. But also it includes other education seminars that we would like to have available and hope to very, very soon. We will by July 1st, 2015. That includes seminars from perhaps DMV on Troops to Trucks, Center for Energy Workforce Development on Troops to Energy, the Census Bureau with veteran demographics, maybe perhaps using social media. There's any number of training seminars that we can host that would be of value for companies in developing or tweaking their organizational veteran hiring plan and veteran recruiting strategies. A big one I want to get is a regular seminar on OFCCP and DEVRAA regulations for federal contractors. And others, I mean, there's plenty of opportunities available that are out there, and we're going to do everything we can to make get a robust training and education repertoire, so it's not going to be difficult at all for companies to receive to acquire their 5 continuing education credits. Generally speaking, every class will be considered one credit, with the exception of the core curriculum training, which, again, companies will be welcome to attend even after they receive their certification. The core curriculum training that's offered both in person and via webinar would amount to a total of 2 credits. So continuing activity credits, some examples of this would be submitting your quarterly V3 report, even if it's a 0. This just is to help us stay engaged with companies, even if they did not hire any veterans during that quarter. It helps us maintain our currency with points of contact within the V3 network, and helps you remain engaged with the V3 program overall. Also submitting an annual hiring pledge. So when you joined the V3 program, you submitted a pledge for 1 year to hire a certain amount of veterans, and we will be notifying companies regularly when their pledge is about to expire, or if it has expired, and submitting a new pledge at least once per year would result in continuing activity credits as well. If you submit along with the quarterly reports, as you may have seen on the form, a best practice or a success story in recruiting, hiring, or retaining veterans, we will count that as well for additional continuing activity credits. And just to let you know, if anyone wants the State of the Commonwealth address by Governor McAuliffe this past week, he highlighted the V3 program and told the story of Travis Johnson, who works for Systems Technology Forum. That story came as a direct result of Systems Technology Forum submitting along with their quarterly report the best practice and success story. So I was glad that STF was able to relay that information to us, and glad to forward it on to the governor, who was pleased to include it in his address to the joint session of the House of Delegates and Senate. So please understand that when you're submitting these, we're not just filing them away. We're going to do everything we can to make sure we recognize companies for their success and best practices. Also, continuing activity credits could include hosting a V3 training day, a referral of another company into the V3 program. I'd really like to see this one take off. So if you're a V3 company and you want your supply chain or your subcontractors, or just a fellow businessman, a business person to join the V3 program, refer them into the V3 program, you'll get continuing activity credits for that as well. You can see up there plenty of other different activities that can go along with continuing activity credits, and definitely not limited to this list. There's plenty of opportunities that are out there that demonstrate an active commitment to recruiting, hiring, and retaining veterans. So these are just some examples as far as the credits that companies would receive for their activity. An annual pledge is 1 credit. Quarterly reports are half a credit, and they can get 1 per quarter. Submitting along with those reports a best practice or success story would result in an additional half credit. So essentially, you could get a total of 1 credit per quarter on your reports. Hosting a V3 training day would be 2 credits. Referral to V3 enrollment, which is I have not restricted that frequency at all. Company referral to V3 enrollment would result in 1 credit. Articles, attending a recruiting day, VEC recruiting day, and there's more information on this on the V3 website. I'll show you where that is in just a second. So if these examples were applied, again, the maximum you'd be able to receive, maximum credits you would be able to receive for an annual pledge would be 2 over the lifetime of your certificate. The maximum amount of credits you'd be able to receive for reports would be 4 over the lifetime of the certificate. And you can see as we apply these credits, it's fairly easy to get above 10. So again, we're not trying to be extremely burdensome and make people concentrate 2 hours a day each day for the entire year to remain engaged with the V3 program. But we do want to ensure that companies are remaining engaged to retain that certificate, especially because that certificate can result in tangible fiscal rewards from the Commonwealth of Virginia. And another reason why we want to include this continuing activity and continuing education credits is it gives us a quantitative way to measure the success and activity of the V3 companies. And we have in the works right now an anticipated award program directly from the governor, perhaps at the V3 Summit, in which we'd be able to recognize company not only for their number of jobs pledged, number of hires reported, but also their activity in recruiting, hiring, and retaining veterans and contributing to the overall success of employment opportunities for veterans. So these continuing activity credits really give us a metric to work with V3 companies and reward them for the amount of effort they've put into staying engaged with the veteran population. So while perhaps you're a small or medium-sized business and the effectiveness of your human resources staff has resulted in zero turnover, so you haven't had to hire any new veterans, we would still be able to measure your activity and support of the veteran population by the amount of activity you've engaged with the V3 program, and still hopefully award that activity accordingly. Again, the governor is 100% behind this. Secretary Harvey, the Secretary of Veterans and Defense Affairs, he's 100% behind this. He wants companies to get recognized as much as possible, and so we're coming up with as many ways as we can to do that. All right, again, that list above that we just showed is not comprehensive. There are plenty of activities that are out there, including veteran-friendly job fairs that go on throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. The V3 program itself is working on ways to expand its connectivity activities with the veteran population. One of the ideas that we have is to host a webinar for V3 companies in which they would connect directly with transitioning service members throughout the nation and throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia in particular. Our Transition Assistance Program Coordinator is working with military installations here in Virginia to get their support for connecting the transitioning service members with our V3 companies who would like to host their own presentation on connecting with the veterans. We will facilitate the webinar and we will host it, but the V3 company of choice would be able to present their company however they would like to, and make the transitioning service member population aware of employment opportunities within their company. And certainly that would be an opportunity for continuing activity credit, and we're happy to provide that platform if companies are interested in it. Companies or authorized providers may submit activities to the V3 program manager for approval. Essentially, I'm the final authority on determining whether or not it counts for credit. But again, this is, I'm not trying to say no here. I'm trying to say yes, because I encourage and really appreciate companies whenever they're involved in the activities of increasing employment opportunities for veterans. And here, this is a change to the first webinar that we had. After our first webinar, it came to my attention that it would really be nice if there were a central hub that companies could submit their continuing activity credits to the V3 program. I agreed. That made total sense. So I created this form on the DVS V3 website that allows companies to go in, put their company name, activity date, activity point of contact, email address, and then to select from here their activity category. And you can read for yourself what the admin category is, what the host or sponsor activity is, its category, what that entails, the outreach activity, what that entails, referral activity, training activity, and again, because I don't want to limit it just to all of these different categories, I included an other that would allow you to include an activity that may not have fit into one of the categories above. To get a detailed list of what our general activities, our template activities include, you can go to dvsv3.com/activities and print out a report of different categories. The admin activities you see up here provides with it the quarterly report, best practice, annual pledge, organizational veteran hiring plan. host or sponsor. I'm not going to go through all these. You can download it for yourself to understand better what sort of activities we're looking for and how many credits go along with it. All right, and this is a 2-page document. I apologize for its compactness and probably its very small font, but I did want to make sure it was able to be printed front and back on a single piece of paper, so it didn't become another binder in the files of of our company's human resources offices. Just a very quick reference guide, and of course, if you have any questions about the activity that you're able to acquire, the V3 staff is here to help and answer those questions. All right, so let's apply these continuing education credits and continuing activity credits to a hypothetical company. We have company XYZ, who is grandfathered in to the V3 program and received an effective certification date of July 1st, 2014. That means his certification expiration is July 1st, 2016, and he may begin the continuing activity credits immediately, but may begin the continuing education credits July 1st, 2015. So you can see here, even though he's been certified, Company XYZ attended the V3 core curriculum training because our core curriculum is constantly being updated as well to include updated best practices, and received 2 credits. And from there, attended USERRA training, Uniform Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act, attended a webinar on work opportunity tax credit on, again, this is hypothetical, November 13th, 2015, attended a webinar on veteran demographics on November 30th, 2015, continued their education activity up until April 30th, 2016, and received a total of 9 continuing education credits. Obviously, that is 4 more than the Company XYZ needed to get for recertification, but they found the training and education opportunities interesting and relevant to their business and decided to attend, for which they received credit. Over on the continuing activity side, Company XYZ, over the lifetime of their certificate, submitted 6 V3 quarterly reports, for which they received half a credit each, resulting in a total of 3 credits. During the lifetime of their certificate, they also submitted 2 annual veteran hiring pledges, resulting in an additional 2 credits, and twice with their quarterly reports, they submitted, along with that, best practices and success stories, resulting in an additional 1 credit. Company XYZ referred a couple of other companies into the V3 program, for which they received 1 credit each. They attended the V3 Summit both years and received a credit each for that. Hosted a VEC recruiting day, which, if you have questions about that, we'll be able to answer that as well. Attended a veteran job fair, a military-friendly, veteran-friendly job fair, and received additional credit. So that would be a total of 13 credits, which again is 3 more than Company XYZ was required to acquire for a V3 recertification, but they went above and beyond and really provided us an opportunity to recognize that effort. The more credits you get, the easier it is for us to recognize those efforts. All right. I'm sure there are questions about this, and as Ross mentioned at the beginning of the program, you may have submitted your questions, and we're going to go over them here at the end. But before I get to the end of the certification, the recertification requirements, I want to submit to the audience here an opportunity to increase the amount of continuing education that would be available. As it stands right now, we're actually going to be formalizing this procedure here very, very quickly. We're providing an opportunity for external parties to become authorized providers of V3 curriculum. And what that means is, for instance, in the Human Resources Certification Institute, the V3 program is an authorized provider of education activities that PHRs, SPHRs, can use towards their recertification in their professional field. What we want to make available is for companies who have a curriculum available or have a training activity available that pertains to the active recruitment, hiring, or retaining of veterans. There's no reason why the V3 program can't approve that curriculum to be used for continuing education credits. Namely, we don't have to have a, there's no reason for us to have a monopoly on the training curriculum, especially since best practices in this are always changing, legislation is always changing, and the private sector is very adept at staying on top of all of, probably even more so than government agencies are. So we want to make sure that there's a mechanism in place to allow companies to become authorized providers of training curriculum, and we'll be formalizing that and have a standard operating procedure for those companies to be able to provide that. And if you're interested in attending the webinar on that, we're hosting one here very soon. Please shoot me an email, me and or Reagan an email, and we'll make sure you get the information for that so you can attend and provide feedback on the mechanism we're proposing to establish. And you can read up here the sort of guidelines that we have already in place, what we'll be implementing. But again, this is an opportunity to expand the amount of training that's available to our V3 companies and not restricting them to only attending webinars that Department of Veterans Services or the V3 program hosts. All right, I'm going to leave up here at the on the screen my contact information and Reagan, the Assistant Program Manager's contact information, as well as our website. If you didn't get my email, if you haven't seen my complaints recently, we've had some email issues within the V3 program that does not allow me to get replies to my emails. It's a very frustrating issue. But please, I am receiving initiated emails, meaning if you click new email and then send it to me, I will get it. But if I send you an email and you reply, I'm not getting that. It's a very strange issue that we're trying to resolve as best we can. But rest assured, we're doing everything we can to get to resolve that issue. Please feel free to contact me or Reagan if you have any questions or concerns about the certification or recertification. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to open it up to questions that you might have. Ross has been collecting those questions, and we'll open it up for our participants to ask them. Ross?
Yeah, certainly, Andy. Thank you. We did get a couple questions. We'll start with the very top. Matt Kellum over there at Dominion. Unfortunately, he is in listen-only mode, but his question was, will there be a formal way the V3 members will need to refer other businesses to the program?
What we're going to do is alter our application to include how did you hear about the V3 program, and that company will identify how they heard about the V3 program, whether it was through Dominion or through the VEC. But also, as a company, you can submit along with, and again, in that continuing activity form, you can submit the name of the company. Once they become enrolled, you will get credit for that. But again, the company Dominion, for example, will only get credit once the company becomes enrolled. So the formality comes from that. Let me get back to the website here. Goes back to this continuing activity form. If you select referral, you can select the type of company referred to the V3 program, whether it was an employer resource referred to the V3 program or a sponsor referred to the V3 program. And here you would enter the referral point of contact, the referral email, and the number of credits requested based on the recertification guidelines. Now see here on the referral point of contact, this is another mechanism for us to follow up. You can enter their contact information, but again, only if you've been given the authorization to do so. We can follow up and try and help them work towards V3 enrollment. But again, right up here, referral name, that's the big one. Dominion, let's say, Matt, you fill this out, complete all the fields, and you referred company XYX and then you completed this, click submit. We got that, and then 2 weeks later, company XYX joined the V3 program. We'll be able to give Dominion credit for that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
And then we're going to move over to Kim. This is Kim Miller. Kim, I'm unmuting your phone, and her question was, what if a company doesn't require a new hire to note if they are a veteran?
That's really on the company to determine the veteran status. We encourage our companies to have veterans, or to afford veterans the opportunity to self-identify their veteran status. That helps not only the company understand the population that they're dealing with, but it gives the veteran an opportunity to get their skills out there. Is this for reporting requirements, Kim?
Kim, you're live.
Are you unmuted?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was on listen only. I'm sorry. Yes.
No,
so we do have that option, you know, when the new hires are doing orientation, but it's not required that they notate it. So if it's not required, then how can we accurately report it to you if we don't know? Does that make sense?
Right, and that would be based on your human resources regulations within the company. But one of the ways that you can increase the amount of self-reporting is to ensure that the veterans that are applying or are being hired, letting them know that you are a veteran-friendly company and you want to reward or you want to capitalize on the skills that they can bring into the workforce. Part of that is during the recruiting process. You know, maybe it's something as simple as identifying yourself as a V3 certified company, but making them feel comfortable to self-identify is a huge step. But again, for reporting requirements, unless you can be sure that they're a veteran, whether through self-identification or your own verification, they wouldn't be counted.
So when I did my report for you that I just submitted, and I think I received an email saying that you had gotten it, it does say 0. You know, however, that may or may not necessarily be accurate, since
Correct.
It's not required that they fill that in on their first day of employment.
Yes, ma'am. And that's one of the things we actually encourage in our core curriculum is to help companies come up with a way to improve the self-identification. So if, you know, for example, you were to attend one of our training days, that might be something that you would gain a better understanding on how to do. I'm not a subject matter expert on this. Again, I'm a program manager. We've contracted out the curriculum development and all of the HR stuff. So I'm kind of just relaying parts of the curriculum that I've learned as well.
Okay. So in regards to the recertification, and this may be for a separate email to you from myself, but I think that according to my emails back and forth with you, our recertification is good until 2015. Is that correct?
2016.
So at this point, all I need to do is submit the quarterly report.
That's correct. We will certainly count any other activity that you do. For example, if you were to attend a veteran-friendly job fair and you were to submit that activity online, we would count that as well.
Okay.
So you don't necessarily have to do anything right now. Theoretically, you could accumulate continuing activity credits up until, you know, the last day of last day before your certificate's expiration.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, Andy, I have another question. This is from Chris Burks. Chris, your line is open. His question was, can you talk briefly about the report being sent out? How often will it be sent, et cetera?
Yes. What we would do with the quarterly reports is we will send out a reminder 15 days before reports are due. This is a quarterly report. So, for example, on January 15th, we sent out a reminder to all of the V3 companies, reminding them that quarterly reports are due on January 31st. We included along with that email a link to our quarterly report form. And if you go to the V3 website and click on Resources and Forums and go to Downloads, not only can you find here almost every single document pertaining to the V3 program as well as our current curriculum, but if you go down to the near the bottom, you'll find here the V3 report form, which is a Word document, and you can download it and open it and send it back. But also along with that, the reporting procedures go into much more detail. You can download that as well and give you a better idea on our expectations and the due dates and the reporting periods. Did that answer your question, Chris?
No, but thanks. That was good information. I don't know what to call it because it doesn't have a title at the top, but you sent me, I call it a report because it talks about my enroll date.
Okay. I know exactly what you're referring to. Company profile, yes, or our records of a company's involvement. So here's our database. What you're looking at here, you get a sneak peek at our back-end records for those that are on attendance. In our database, we have, Chris, what company, again, are you from?
VDOT.
Okay. Well, I'm actually not going to display your company. I'm going to show 360 IT Partners simply because I've been using them as a test case while I've been building this database profile. We have a reporting mechanism to let you know what our records are on each company. So if you see here for 360 IT Partners, we have their information, their industry information, some of their last certification action, their point of contact information, veteran hires pledged, hires reported, certification report, and then on the next page we have all of the continuing education that 360 IT has done. And again, notice here that these are hypothetical. August 13th, 2015, 9/30/2015. This actually hasn't been done. I've just been using them as a test case. And again, over here, the continuing activity credits. You see all of these things that I've input, test things that 360 IT has done. And what this does is it calculates the total number of credits that you've earned, both on the continuing education side and the continuing activity side. And also down here lets you know how many credits you have remaining toward recertification. So Chris, I hope this will answer your question saying if you would like, what we plan on doing, Reagan and I are coming up with a streamlined way of doing this, is every quarter or so when the reports are submitted, we will return with in our reply to the company, we will include with our reply this regular report back to you. So it's not just you as companies reporting to us. We will report back to you what our records show for your activity. Was that a better answer to that question?
Yeah, that's great. So, and also, we wouldn't be, like, for example, the VDOT, I wouldn't be able to access this. This is just something that you access.
That's correct. At this time, given the restrictions that we have on our website for allowing external users, our current firewall does not allow us to allow registered users on the V3 website. This is something that we have to keep internal for the time being until we figure out a way to bypass that. But yeah, ideally, this would be something that a company could access at the click of a button. And if we didn't have those restrictions, we'd certainly try to do that as soon as possible.
Okay, great. One last question. So if there's something on here that needs to be updated, if something's incorrect or something has changed, should we just send you an email with the changes?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Yes, Andy, this is actually from Billy Cook. She's in listen-only mode. We may have covered this, but we at least want to ask it. Once you submit your CE or activity information, is there a central location that they can actually check their progress? And if not, can she send us an Excel spreadsheet for view for their continuing activity credits?
Yeah, let me make that point. You don't have to use that online form to submit the continuing activity credits. It's a good place for us because we can turn that into an Excel document automatically. But if, Billy, if you have your own Excel sheet that you want to submit to us, we can certainly accommodate that. And as far as tracking your activity, again, with this form, we would send it out at regular intervals so you could identify your progress with us. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I believe so. Now another question also in listen-only mode is Blake Wingfield. His question is, does attending a quarterly EAB meetings count towards continued education or continued activity? And if so, which one?
Actually, that's a, because I've been to those EAB meetings and they're quite educational. That's actually a good question. Definitely for activity, but I'm going to look into seeing how we can turn that into education as well. So that's a good question. Thanks for that.
Andy, this is Reagan. I would say continuing activity first before for education. But they do presentations regularly at those meetings. So
right. So there's a way we can formalize the procedure for training, or formalize the presentations. Maybe that's something we can look at. But definitely continuing activity, absolutely.
Okay, Andy, this is Pamela Harris, and Pam, your line is open. If you meet the education credit but not the activity, would you lose your certification?
Repeat that question, please.
If you meet the education credit but not the activity, do you lose your certification?
Yes. And vice versa.
Okay, thank you.
Again, after 2 years.
Okay.
Okay, we've got time for a couple more questions here. The next one is actually back from Chris again. Will we automatically get points for today's session?
I don't know. Thanks, Chris, for that. As far as activity or education, for activity, yes. Education, no, because this doesn't pertain directly to active recruiting, hiring, or retaining of veterans. It's more administrative. But for activity, yes.
Okay, Andy, that's all the questions I have at the moment. So last chance for anybody to ask any questions.
All right, again, this session has been recorded, and I may I'll put it online as soon as we get it compressed and into a format that's conducive to downloading and playing online. But again, thank you everyone for your participation in today's webinar, and looks like we already have people dropping out, so I'm going to stop talking and let everyone else go.
Andy.
Yeah.
Andy, before you go, on a clarification on that last point, are we going to automatically record this activity for these participants, or do they need to submit it themselves?
No, we have the attendee registration list. We'll be able to do it ourselves.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. And again, thank you for your continued commitment to recruiting, hiring, and retaining veterans.